measure from center to center and make sure it's 34 inches.
Okay, just push that one out. Or back a little.
Okay, that's one. Okay, screw me.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. The size of that tree.
You think this would look good holding up our loft?
Yep. No, let's leave it in its place here. Wow.
Crazy.
Huge.
Whoa.
What's in there?
This is so crazy. It
Aren't-
looks like it burned on the inside, so it's all charcoal. But this is incredible. Wow. This is really cool. It's a tree cave. This is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if I can get in there.
Can you fit?
Not my backpack on.
Oh.
Whoa.
Whoa, that was a whole experience.
Come check out these two over here. What did you find down there?
It's like a forest of mushrooms, like a little village of mushrooms. That's so cool.
They're everywhere.
I feel like skipping. I don't want to step on any. This is where the Smurfs live.
For sure.
They're everywhere.
They're all over the place. How long did we get wet in the rain for? Hiking around the whole area?
Probably 2 hours.
More maybe, because now we're right in our backyard. This is the part of our forest that we haven't expanded out to yet, and they're everywhere. So like, I'm using my cool graphing knife. It's pretty sweet for mushrooming, that hook on there. So check this out, I don't want to damage them. But it's just like, I'll let the camera get a little, those are some beautiful looking ones. And then I'll flip them over for you guys to check this out. It's the underside. These look really good.
They do.
This one is a really cool one. Check that one out. That's a good looking one.
Sweet.
Yeah, Reishi's falling asleep for sure, and Ginseng's like annoying him.
So go here, I'm standing up here.
Nicole insists on wearing these flip-flops, these thongs, all the time. How much did you pay for those?
Like 50 cents.
They look cute, but not for what we're doing. You are going to wind up with
like
a toe missing.
apart. They're not cute anymore, but they're easy to slip on.
You put them on for chopping wood, for doing work, and I love your toes. You need to protect them.
But they're easy.
What's the number one rule?
Flip-flops first.
No. Safety number one.
Okay, standing here, I'm getting attacked by mosquitoes. That's not safe, so come on.
Guess where you're getting bit?
Not my feet.
On your feet.
No, my arms.
Well, hey, you're clear. You want to go right out or then build here?
Do you want to go right out and then build?
Yeah, you can come right out.
Okay.
Wow. Hey everybody, it's Jake Mace, Jake Off Grid. I've always thought of YouTube as like a video journal. I've never been much into journaling, writing, but I've made, close to over 2,000 videos of my life here on YouTube for the martial arts, for fitness, for gardening, and now for off-grid living and for traveling. So I want you guys to check out the yurt that we build. You guys have seen us build here at the Jake and Nicole video blog, but also at Jake Mace Off-Grid, at Off-Grid Athlete. And then look above the yurt and look at all these trees, and they're shading out the sun. They're probably about 50 years old. They're very tall, very healthy, very straight, but the sun right now is about 3 o'clock and it's over there. And I'm being shaded out. I do get a lot of sun, about 6-7 hours of sun in this spot right here. So we have chosen so far, Nicole and I, to gather pretty much 95% of our power that we use from the sun, even though we're here on Vancouver Island. So I want to spin you guys around and show you guys the rudimentary system that I'm using and talk about how we get power off the grid and what I'm doing. Okay, first off, for years now, I have gone after information from my friends and family, anybody who has had any experience hooking up a solar power system. And I've been a sponge trying to absorb all of their experience and knowledge. Look at all these fruit trees here. These kiwi vines, roses, jujubes, cherries, all different fruit trees we're starting to build a network of here in anticipation of the garden coming up. Okay, look at the leaves. It blows my mind how nature functions, okay? These guys get so much of their energy from the sun, and the leaves are their solar panels. And we all know from school the word photosynthesis, and I love the idea of humans acting like plants and trees to get their power. So for me, looking at these 6 solar panels here, they're very sexy and I think they're very good looking. Wind turbine energy is not really an option for Nicole and I at this time because we're in the middle of a forest and the wind is not able to get to us unless we were to put the wind turbine, the windmill, on a pole that was above the trees, which we can't go like 80 feet up in the air. So while we're in this dense forest, it's good because it protects us from wind gusts, but it also limits us with the wind energy we otherwise could use. So we're gonna go solar. You guys know I do martial arts and I rarely ever talk about my martial arts background here at the video blog, and I don't talk about it much on my Off-Grid Athlete channel. But solar power to me and a lot of things in life are like martial arts. You start as a white belt and you have to start slow, okay? And other people who are black belts have to teach you stuff and you have to kind of slowly build your skill as you build to yellow belt, blue belt, green belt, brown belt, black belt. So these panels are my white belt panels, okay? I really recommend you guys go out if you have an interest in solar energy and buy this set. This was from Harbor Freight, I believe. Nicole's dad gifted us these and they've been a great tool to not only give us power, but also teach us about how solar energy works. So each panel is 25 watts. So together it's a 100-watt system. And we just hooked it up. It's really easy. All the 4 panels hooked together into this one wire. And then this wire has this wire. You hook these guys together. And then this plugs into a controller that then plugs into like a car battery, okay? A lead acid battery, they call it. Any kind of like boat battery or car battery. So what we do during the day is we take a battery and we plug this in to a controller that then plugs into the battery. And that is how we've been getting our battery charged during the day with these 25-watt panels. 4 of them equals 100 watts. And that's been enough for us to bring the battery inside at night and run 2 LED lights and a USB charger for charging our phones and charging our computers. This was white belt. So now we're gonna go back here to like a blue belt solar setup. And I'd recommend if you guys are interested in solar to get this little system. And this was from Renogy. This was something we got off Amazon. And each of these panels are 100 watts each. So they're more efficient panels. And we have a 200-watt system here, okay? 100 and 100. And I have these 2 guys hooked up with wires, and then they go into this controller right here. And you can see how the PV is flashing at that appropriate speed right now. That means I successfully have energy going from the sun into these panels, into this controller. And if you guys come around back here, it then goes into this battery. So everything is going from these panels into that charge controller and then into this battery. That's it, okay? It's a very simple system. So we're gonna take those 4 panels and use them coming up for a electrified fence that we're gonna put around our new kittens and our garden to keep bears and cougars out of our garden and out of the cat atrium. So that way there's an electric fence charged by a car battery, charged by those panels. So I'm making this video to inspire and show you guys, but also as a video journal so that Jake Mace in a year, 2 years, and 10 years from now can look back and see a much younger Jake Mace talk about the origins of his and Nicole's electric system they're going to be creating themselves off the grid from the sun. Okay, a little bonus. We're back inside the yurt. First off, everyone's asking me where this yurt comes from. It's got a really cool native British Columbian West Coast Vancouver Island vibe here on the side, showing the flora of the area. And in the back is the fauna. We got the cool eagle. And this comes from Pina Styles. We're gonna put a link down below where you guys can go join their Instagram and order stuff. This guy is 100% cotton, right? All natural materials, and love supporting these local companies. This is my favorite shirt right now, by far. Pina Styles, check them out. So 3 things before this video ends. This guy, this anchor, this is a amazing thing you should also get. This is like yellow belt maybe, okay? Maybe it's like clear belt. This is like before white belt. This is a solar panel you can take with you while you're hiking. So I use this all the time. If you guys go back and watch the video of Nicole and I swimming at the lake, we had this out charging our phones and our cameras while we were swimming in the lake. And then right in here, there's 2 USB ports where you can plug in your iPhone cord or your whatever cord and charge your gadgets right there. And this is the inverter that allows us to take the car battery at night, put it in here, and I cut this piece of wood from one of our fallen trees, so the battery just sits on top of this right here. We clip these alligator clips onto the car battery like you would when you jump a car. Positive, negative, you know what I'm saying? And then this just turns on and we plug in our computer and our camera batteries and our phone to this inverter. And this is the charge controller that we use at night for the lights. So we just take these wires, plug them in right there, and then right here, this is DC output. DC means energy from the sun. And if you guys look above me, you'll see those 2 LED lights up there above all the herbs and spices. And those are the lights that are where this cord comes from. We just plug this into there and the lights turn on at night for us, and we've never run the battery down too much. And every day, the 6 hours or so of sun we get on those panels charge the battery more than enough to power our computers, our phones, and those lights above us, and our camera batteries. So get out there and get some of these little systems, because it'll wet your whistle and give you the knowledge and some inspiration to understand how solar power works. And then slowly you can advance in belt rank and get up to the brown belt and the black belt solar energy systems.
Nice to meet you, Jake.
You're with WeGo Solar.
WeGo Solar here.
You're a local company here on Vancouver Island.
Correct, yeah. We've been here for, well, we've been in the Valley since 2009. Carolyn comes with a lot of background experience and contacts that we've actually been able to expand and grow a business. So we basically started from scratch. We had some support and her knowledge that has taken us to where we kind of are today. So we've got some great support from Canada's largest solar provider, which is HESPV, Home Energy Solutions. They are our big sister. 22 years later, we are business owners and providing solar solutions for fabulous people like Jake and Nicole, and allowing them to be sustainable living off grid.
3 things I wanted to ask you about. One, we're on Vancouver Island. People know this is Canada. Can we generate solar energy in Canada here?
Yes, so the biggest misconception here is we have cloudy, rainy weather living on the West Coast.
It's like blisteringly sunny today.
We are in probably about 27, 28 degrees. We've got some spotty sun with clouds, but the sun at this point is very intense. So harvesting under these conditions is absolutely possible and good. Solar systems love t-shirt weather. That's when they're optimized. That's when everything is running at its best.
So number 2 I want to ask you about is, what am I getting from you guys for our Blackfish Hollow off-grid property?
So what we are providing for Jake and Nicole is we are basically a ground up system. So we're battery bank, we are inverter charger, we are charge controller, we are all the breakers that we would anticipate to use for multiple strings. We're going to have 4 strings of 3 panels, 60 cell modules.
Okay.
And we
Which
are
means 12 panels.
12 panels in total.
What's the wattage in each panel?
We are 275 watts, so we're just about the 3 kilowatt range, which I think is going to be optimum sized.
I know you're also interested in like how much solar we can generate in the winter time, because your concern is keeping the quality and the longevity of the batteries up.
Correct.
Because these are lead acid batteries, you don't want them below 50% charge.
Correct. So basically we want to have, or assure we have, enough watts, which calculates into amp input, into the battery bank, keeping these guys in an optimum condition.
Okay.
If we are looking after these batteries, we're doing our diligence, we are doing our maintenance about every 4 to 5 weeks.
They should last.
We should have 10-year lifespan out of these batteries without really any question.
Okay.
If we are sliding on
That's a
any of the
safe
maintenance,
estimate.
that's the safe estimate. There's no reason why you can't get 12 to 14 years out of these.
Okay.
I have clients in a similar L16 battery. We are replacing, but we're at a 12-year now lifetime span. So if you break that down into a dollar figure per day, we're at pennies per day for the cost of the battery bank for 10 to 12 years. The most key elements to keeping your battery bank healthy, first off, we look at our wattage and our current being produced for the batteries. We size that correctly. We have roughly 3 kilowatts of solar coming in. We have a 400 amp hour battery bank. So my solar is way up here, my battery's here. We can add more batteries to the system. The basic elements that we are going to look at right now today on keeping batteries in a premium condition is the level of our electrolyte in the actual batteries per cell. So each cell we're going to inspect and make sure that my fluid level in there is at a nominal sort of state.
And what does that mean for like a beginner? Like, is one battery one cell or?
Okay, so each battery here is 3 cells. We are working with 6-volt batteries. Each battery cell should be roughly about 2.2 volts. Giving us about 6.6 volts per battery. We're actually going to run these all in series for a 24 volt system. So
Okay.
Jake and Nicole are getting a 24 volt E panel.
So that means we're like combining them together.
Correct.
To make a 24 volt system.
We are going to hook these all up in a series configuration. Series actually bumps up voltage for us, and we can achieve the higher voltages needed. If we were going to parallel, per se, a 12 volt battery bank and a 12 volt system, we would series 2 batteries together and another 2 batteries together. Then we'd have our jumpers or our parallel cables coming over. But in this application, it's going to be a 24 volt system. So we're going to series all 4 batteries up, getting or achieving our 24 volts for our system.
Yeah.
Same thing as your muscles in your body. We want to have these batteries strong. So the best way to keep them strong is actually through cycles and using the battery, using the capacity, but initializing or giving them charge back to actually give them that healthy 100% state.
So for a newbie out there for solar, what's going to tell me what state they're in?
Okay.
My controller has a readout, yes?
Yes, so charge controller is going to tell us a voltage on the battery bank itself. So
And it will, what will it do if I cross into that dangerous
So
depletion territory?
if you cross into getting up to that 50% state of discharge, we have what's called a BMK, a battery monitoring kit.
Mm-hmm.
That battery monitoring kit is adjusted by voltage levels. It physically tells our inverter system, which is supplying our 110 power, where our threshold is and where our LVD, low voltage disconnect, is. So the low voltage disconnect and our BMK are set at default right now, which default is usually a beginner's friend. Let's just say Jake's running his skill saw. He's building some of the actual racking for the panels, and he's running his skill saw, and physically he comes to a point where this battery monitoring kit has sensed the voltage. It is now sending a signal to the inverter. I'm going to shut down until the actual batteries have recouped again. So they would look for probably about 80% recovery before it'll actually initialize and for that inverter to come back on.
So it's going to wait till the next day getting sun.
Either
or it has
that,
to have a generator.
either that or generator backup power. So if you wanted to continue working,
You suggested we have this in the winter just in case, because we don't know what we're going to be generating
that's right. That's
and
right.
what we're going to be using yet.
So this is
Our first winter.
because Jake is going to be, this is a green system and he's new with this. This is a system where he can grow with it, but we want to implement gear that's going to be up
Like a bodyguard.
up to your standards, but still allow for us to add to it and grow the system. So
Okay.
I can physically add 3 more banks of batteries like this. So we could have 3 parallel connections for a maximum capacity of
Still
about
24 volt system.
still
but
24 volts.
3 sets running in parallel.
Yeah, that's right. We would go now from a 400 amp hour to roughly 600 amp hour capacity, which is astronomically huge.
Yeah.
Unless you're running a hot tub or a wood shop, that kind of power really is up and above what we would estimate for off-grid life. In an off-grid lifestyle, somewhere between 40 and 100 amp hour capacity per person in the dwelling is really a common number that we see for usage. Into the battery maintenance for prolonged longevity for anybody's batteries, as long as we're talking about wet lead acid batteries.
This is even like a car battery, same thing.
Same idea. We lose our cranking amp capacity, but we gain the low discharge as well as the amp hour capacity. Mostly for a deep cycle battery, we anticipate that we have a lot of amps on backup for us. So a car battery, little amount of amps, but high cold cranking delivery, so we can use it to turn starters over to initiate the engine or the motor to start. So we're at 6.4 volts, which I'm loving it. This is nice voltage on these batteries. Danger voltage would be anything below 6 volts. So anything lower than 6 volts on these batteries is danger zone. So 5.99, we are 1% off of being not in danger, realistically. I would love to have each of these batteries all at the same physical level. 6.4, so
these all are brand new from the factory. So.
These are all brand new from the factory. These caps is a new design. Now, most manufacturers have gone with the design. It will actually capture the evaporated vapors, or hydrogen gas, from the batteries, that the batteries being produced, that hydrogen gas under current, receiving current, and will actually turn that gas back into a liquid form and drip it out of that hole back into the actual cell. So it's a way for the batteries to actually retain some of their electrolyte. In these batteries on these cells, we have a tang on here. This tang right here. At the bottom of that tang, we look for about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch gap between the tang and the fluid level. So that fluid level is about 1 inch above the lead plates in these batteries. We can go down, I can feel it, and then I got about a 1/4 inch. So that guy's perfect. Now, I got battery acid on my finger.
Yeah.
Well, the quickest way to get rid of that is a nice clean bucket of water. So
okay,
I'm cheating a little bit. We should probably have glasses on for safety and gloves. Generally,
the trolls are going to come out in the comments.
I don't see too many people doing that, but there's no reason why we can't have a bucket of water beside us.
Okay.
So this is going to be your biggest friend. You probably want to have a box of, they suggest a box of baking soda.
Okay.
And some rubber gloves. If we actually determine that we have one cell low, and let's just say the plates are almost exposed, what we want to do is add distilled and distilled water only. No river catch, no boiled water, no city water or creek water. Reason being is city water has chlorine in it. It distorts the electrolytes and physically nulls their performance.
Could I do like if I had a pot of rainwater and then I were to catch the evaporated
No.
steam of the rainwater?
The only way you can do it is if you have a still. So you might be making some moonshine. If you have a still, then yes, you can make your own distilled water.
Got it.
The reason they want distilled water in here is because all the small particulate minerals have been removed.
Right.
What happens when we had creek water or lake water, those minerals get added when you add that water to the battery and physically bond themselves to the plates. They will not come off. Now they are hindering any performance that is going to be made within that electrolytes on those plates.
Okay.
So what we end up doing if we have a low cell is we're going to top it up about 2 to 3 millimeters. That's it, just initially. Of distilled water.
So if I buy a jug of distilled water from the grocery store, that's
It's
good.
going to last you probably well over a year.
Okay. Now, how often should I see them drop in level?
So The only reason that you're going to have a big variance, and if they are dropping in level, is if my input voltage is a little bit too high. So we are running at 24 volts, we're going to be charging roughly about 28 volts. So we can dial down the charge controller or the inverter charger just a little bit, and I usually go by 0.2. So this
if
battery
I see it evaporating out, I can bring my input down 0.2.
That's right, and 0.2, not like 2 volts or anything.
Yeah.
It's 0.2.
2/10.
2/10. Thank you.
Okay.
And that will actually affect the way that the batteries receive their charge. That should lessen the amount of actual distilled water you're putting into the batteries. I find if we are putting more than about 3 or 4 ounces per month per cell in, my voltage is too high. I would dial that down by 0.2, 2/10 of a volt. We use my specific gravity meter to tell us the condition of the actual electrolyte levels within the batteries themselves. So we're setting Jake and Nicole up with one of these guys.
That's awesome.
This will actually give you a reading to where we want to have our batteries. So on the specific gravity meter, hydrometer, we want to be somewhere in the green zone. Even if we're on the low side of the green zone, we're still good. We're golden. It's if the batteries start deviating and we start hitting a little bit in the blue, that's when we want to initialize an equalization charge. Equalization charge can be important for 2 reasons. Reason 1, balancing out all the cells. It will physically make the cells, or just allow the cells to come to an even playing ground, even level. Reason 2 is if we ever had a low cell, a deviation on, let's just say, cell number 5, everything else looks perfect, but cell number 5 is going down, we want to initialize an equalization to try to get that cell number 5 back at the same level as the rest of my other 11 cells.
How do I initiate equalization?
Equalization can be done 2 ways. You have enough solar that we can absolutely initialize equalization through the solar controller and implement higher voltage to the batteries.
So the controller can initiate
Controller
that.
can do that. Generally, equalization is probably between 1.5 to 2 hours, and it's a full cycle, as a charge cycle onto the batteries. And step 2, or how we can get it via 2, is the Magnum power panel we can force charge via a generator or backup and charge through the actual battery charger in the Magnum e-panel.
So my question that I wanted to ask you was, for somebody who's installing a 3 or 4 kilowatt hour system like this themselves, where are the 1 or maybe 2 areas where you could really get hurt? Where are you going to have, like, where's a newbie going to punish themselves with a shock if they are going to punish themselves?
Great question.
Like,
So
where should I have some red flags up along the installation process?
okay, so
to watch it out.
The biggest danger in an off-grid system is the battery bank, and the reason being is we're playing with DC current. We have about 100 amps going on of delivery power. We have nearly 400 amp hour capacity in these batteries. We have a very high risk of electrifying or getting shocked if we aren't taking some simple procedures.
Like what?
Rule of thumb for number 1. If you're using a box-ended wrench, you have tape on one end of that wrench. So
Like electrical tape?
Electrical tape. So you cannot physically reach over and arc out the actual terminals. Rule 2 is make sure that you got some decent boots or shoes. Vans works great. And then just using, due care and attention on what you're doing. When you are hooking up and we're wiring batteries with 2 open ends on a cable, it's nice to either have that one end either wrapped up if you want to with some electrical tape, put a glove on it. I've had guys, a rubber glove, and physically now you can focus on your one
So it's not
set
gonna
of
be
hardware.
randomly hitting something metal.
Exactly, or
and
not flopping over and arcing out on another terminal.
Sure.
That's the biggest danger in the system, is making sure that when we are hooking up the batteries, positive hookup is a must, and keeping one end of that actual open-ended cable away from the second terminal you're physically trying to reach over to. When we do our hookup, we are going to be in a series configuration, so we're going from a positive to a negative, to a positive to a negative to a positive to a negative in a group of 4. Now we're going to implement my inverter cables onto these, so we're on those last positive and negative terminals. That's going to complete our circuit.
That's when I met the risk because I'm dealing with the full power of the bank.
Correct. We do have the main breaker, which is going to be your friend at that point. We're going to make sure that is in the off position. So we have no power running through the system. We're only implementing our inverter cables up to the battery bank. You might get a little snap, but again, positive contact with the cable to the terminal. Even if you don't have this bolt in here ready, that's right. Even if this bolt is just sitting here to the side, as so,
it's close enough to
we bring in that actual battery cable or our inverter cable and we hold it there. Now we can implement our bolt through, holding the actual terminal on the battery and the inverter cable, and then bring your other nut around, tighten it up finger tight, and then get your wrenches and give them about another half turn. So rule of thumb, if you tighten the battery terminals on and your inverter cables and you can wiggle it, it's not tight enough. So do another quarter turn until you cannot wiggle the battery. You're a fit guy, you don't have to reef it, but you should not be able to teeter-totter it back and forth. It should be taut and you can't move that terminal.
It's funny every day. Oh my God. Gotta switch legs.